Hi, this is Christopher James, and I am here with Perry Edinburg, but you might not know that name. You might know him as Harley Worthit.
That's it.
How about that? It's
Yeah.
very difficult to get you to come in here. You're a busy, busy man, aren't you?
Well, I'd rather be working than doing anything else.
Well, I suppose who wouldn't?
Yeah.
Well, it depends, I guess, on what the work is
Yeah.
exactly. So,
Well, I hate looking for work.
yeah, that's the worst part.
It
actually.
is.
Once you find it, it's much easier
Yeah.
that way. I
Keep
prefer to
doing
stay.
that.
Yeah, I was actually listening to an interview with Henry Winkler, who was the Fonz
Right.
this morning, and
Happy
he said
days.
the same thing. He's like, "Oh, I'm just happy to be working all the time."
Right.
But right now, you're doing the Down Home Country show.
Down
Is
home
that-
country
am I
at
saying that
10,
Mm-hmm.
5 days a week,
At the Grand Country
Grand
Theater.
Country Theater. And then the Comedy Jamboree at 3 o'clock, same theater, completely different show, and it's 5 days a week, too.
Is that
now.
is that strange? Do you change your comedy at all between the two
Yes.
shows? Yeah,
Yep.
like a different character. Well, you're the same character, yeah.
Well, on the Comedy Jamboree, we have several skits,
Mm-hmm.
and you're a different person on several of those. But, yeah, on the Down Home show, I'm always Harley.
You're always Harley.
Yeah.
And do people recognize you when you're out? Because you look very different when
Yeah.
you're Harley.
Most of the time, no.
Yeah, isn't that nice?
Yeah.
I have that curse. People recognize me all the
Yeah.
time. But
I'm not in it for that. I'm in it for the laughs. Recognition is nothing I was ever really after.
well, I'm not looking for it either. But
Yeah.
you're trying to eat out. Maybe somebody recognizes you, is what you're saying there.
Yes.
But
It happens rarely.
yeah, because you're busy. We were talking about some of the shows and stuff that you've done here in town, and you get around a lot. People really like your comedy and stuff, and I got to say, sometimes I read some of the reviews of shows you've been in, and you like to push it a little bit.
I do.
But for Branson, because I've discussed this with other
Right.
performers and other comedians, Branson has a different level of
The
acceptability.
line is in a different place.
Yeah, that's one way to put it.
Right.
One way to put
And
it.
I think you have to bump the line a little bit. Mm-hmm. Maybe you can cross it, but you got to get back over it to the safe side again too.
Yeah, you don't want to alienate the audience.
Right. What I try to find is the cute, dirty joke. Mm-hmm. The one that has the flavor without the distaste.
Okay, that's one unique way to put
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Because most of the audience is adults. Mm-hmm. And, I like to go to shows and see other comedians, and you can tell there are some that play it safe.
Yeah.
And it's 2 hours of why did the chicken cross the road?
Exactly. Cute little
Right.
kid type stuff.
It's so bland and vanilla that I call it dialogue rather than comedy.
right.
I think if I'm going to be called a comedian, there better be people laughing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree, and I've seen a few of your bits and stuff, and you have something for everybody, but then there's different levels to it. As my daughter says, I start with the entire audience with me,
Yeah.
and then eventually I get down to two people, and then I back, get the whole audience with me. But you don't use anything, I don't think, offensive or anything like that in the show.
Well, that's your opinion.
Do you find it offensive?
Well, no, I don't find it offensive. I can't be offended.
Right.
I appreciate all jokes. To me, a joke is either funny or it's not funny.
Yeah.
Subject matter doesn't bother me, but Branson is a unique place, and you have to respect that. Mm-hmm. But I think that people need to laugh, and when you're on the showboat, how many people are sitting there? What is it?
Oh,
does it seat?
Dozens.
Yeah, dozens. Goodness sake.
No.
Things are picking up.
It's busy. It's our new campaign, 2 for 1.
Yeah.
No, we're actually lucky. We usually have 500, 600, 700 people.
Right.
Yeah, hundreds of people.
So if you have 700 people, you have 700 different senses of humor. Mm-hmm. And as the comic, you're supposed to affect each one of them. Mm-hmm. And I believe that two people can sit right next to each other and watch the same show and have completely different opinions of it.
Totally agree. And that's okay. Some
Right.
people don't think that's okay, but yeah, that's okay.
Right. But as the comedian or entertainer in general, let's say, you have to be able to affect an entertainment situation for each one of those people there.
No, I totally agree. I think that the problem we have as comedians is that someone is worried that someone else is offended. I'm not offended, but you
Right.
talked about such and such.
Right.
That person could be offended. And that bothers me. People around are too worried about what somebody else is thinking.
True.
And it makes comedy difficult sometimes. But would you agree? I heard a comedian once say every joke has to do with making someone or something uncomfortable. Like every joke is a little twist on something. You have to.
Yeah.
It's an uncomfortable situation. You don't see the ending coming. Otherwise, it would just be a story.
Right. The line I hear is there's a but to every joke. Of course, here in Branson, you try to point most of the humor at yourself. So it's self-deprivating and make fun of yourself, which works for me.
It works for me, too.
But I think that, matter of fact, this year on the Down Home show, I put something together about people complaining.
Smart.
And people being offended. And it's gone over real well. It was hard to make a point and be funny at the same time. But I think that we're being taught to be offended.
I agree. Because everyone sues for everything and everybody wants to complain all the time. No, and I have brought that into our show. I talked about that with your coworker, Jamie.
Yeah.
Where at some point in my show, I usually say, isn't it nice to laugh today in a time when everybody wants to be offended? I just point it out.
Right.
And that way, if somebody's in the audience in a group and goes up and complains, now they look terrible because I just said, what about these people? You know, I set them up for looking like that.
I used to tell a joke about a fishing buddy that I had, and I'd say his name was Doodah Jones, and I'd put my hand out like this, and I'd say, he's a midget. And then somebody in the band, I would cue them to say, you can't say that anymore. Oh, yeah, he's a little person. But he used to be a midget. You know, for crying out loud, folks, it's the political correctness. I think it's just it's silly.